So my name is Peter Achayo. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. So I'm an arts curator, writer, cultural strategist. I also run a page called African Art Matters, which I've been running for the last 6 years. That basically gives you a summary of what's going on within the art space across Africa and its diaspora. Perhaps there have been about 3 or 4 seasons to it. It started very small, very slow, with on the commercial side, really with being run by expatriates in the city. That's more like the 60s, 70s, and perhaps the 80s. But towards the late 80s, we had a number of local people then also who got into the scene, especially from running independent spaces, especially galleries, and also platforming emerging talent across the country. Then you have the last perhaps 10 years have been the most exciting because there's a lot more new players on the scene. Just to give you an idea, like 6 years ago, you would have maybe just about 4 commercial galleries, with 2 other ones that are very strong. You visited one of them, which is one of, then there is the other one, which is Sakolat. But in the last 6 years, I think we've seen perhaps easily there could be 20 or 30 new spaces that have opened up, from independent spaces, experimental places, and then people who are more leaning or geared towards doing a proper commercial representation of artists. Yeah. So, and then again, you look 6 years ago, you would have maybe you're looking at maybe 1 or 2 max new exhibitions being mounted in the city, and now we have easily 20 to 30 new exhibitions every month. So you can see that the momentum and the volume have increased tremendously. Let me speak more about East Africa, because if we're looking at the continent, I mean, we are miles behind, say, what's going on in South Africa or Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, even Morocco, that have had very, very strong ecosystems that have been developed over 3, 4, 5 decades. So Nairobi doesn't have that advantage of a long history of particularly working at an ecosystems level. But within East Africa, Nairobi definitely is the center of the region. When you look at artists all the way from DR Congo, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and even to an extent Ethiopia and Sudan, both Sudans, Nairobi is the biggest market where they all want to be at some point, perhaps to have their flagship exhibition. So in the context of the region, Nairobi is way ahead. But there's a lot of catching up, of course, if you're looking at West Africa or South Africa or even the North. Well, at least there are 2 or 3 really that I find very strong in terms of their programming. So you've got Sakolat, which is right now, I think, the strongest gallery in the entire East African region. And they have at least every 2 months or so, they have a new exhibition that's being mounted. Then you have the one-off, also very strong, long history of operating in the city, and they have platformed so many artists over there, perhaps 2 or so decades of operations. And then you have the Nairobi Contemporary Art Institute, which is more research and experimental space as well. That's it's very young, about maybe 4 or 5 years old. But it's gaining a lot of traction, not just in the country, but its prominence is being felt across Africa. And this year, they're actually gonna be showing as well at the Venice Biennale, which is a real big plus for them. Yeah, so those three places for me really take pride of place in this city. Obviously, Africa Federation, the figurative movement across Africa, which, as you would know very well, was helmed by Kehinde Waile. And there's a lot of practitioners. I know there's the entire school out in Ghana, the Amaoko Boafos, and all that group out in the West that have made this become one of the most recognizable art forms from Africa. Then I love abstraction. We don't have too many abstract artists practicing here, but for me, it's a personal fancy. And then the other one that following very closely really is fiber and fabric art, also, which is I think it's a segment that I'm seeing is growing a lot in prominence, and perhaps in the next few years, it's it's going to be a very well recognizable art language as well. I think identity for me, I think really does stand out. It's one of those that I've followed for the longest, and also a lot of the people that whose work I like a lot also address that very same message and theme. There's so many, but I think you're gonna get me into a fight with my friends. So, I'll say it this way. I think no, it's okay. I'll make an attempt, but I have to put a rider to it. There is Kaloki Nyamai. If you don't know about him, is a name you want to perhaps be familiar with. And then you have, I think, one of the greatest living artists from Kenya. There is Magdalene Odundo, who is based in the UK. She's a ceramicist. And her name is not very well recognized in Kenya or in Africa, but she is a real super name out there in the West. She's also going to be showing in Venice, and part of together with Kaloki, and then Wangeshi Mutu, who you may be familiar with as well. Those three will be showing at the Biennale in Venice. So if you want to see some of the best art out of Kenya, then I suggest that you better pay attention to those names. I think they're going to have some very strong showing in the main segment at the Biennale.